We are bringing the podcast into the real world with our first ever in-person event, an evening of curiosity and conversation hosted in downtown Chicago, February 19th, 2026. Picture an intimate dinner party stacked with speakers, all guests from some of your favorite episodes, and space to make new child-free friends. Seats are limited, so you can read all the details and get your ticket by visiting Curious Life of a Child-Free Woman/2026 event. Welcome to Curious Life of a Child-Free Woman, a podcast exploring today's most interesting topics through the lens of a happy child-free life. Every week, I chat with experts inspiring us to think differently, live intentionally, and find fulfillment on our terms. Whether you're child-free or seeking a space where parenthood isn't part of the conversation, you are welcome here. It's not about comparison, it's about possibility. Before we start the episode, do you know about the Curious Life Club on Substack? It's a free community to enjoy bonus content and sneak peeks, and to connect with other cool women like you. Join us at CuriousLifeOfAChildFreeWoman.substack.com. Now let's get curious together. Human design seems to be mentioned everywhere these days. It's like the new version of someone asking, "What's your sign?" when you meet for the first time. But I, for one, do not really know what it means, and I definitely don't know how to leverage it to make my life easier. That's why I am so excited to chat with Sam from Human Aligned. She's a certified life and health coach, human design analyst, specializing in identity refinement, and she helps people reconnect with their own energetic blueprint and move through life with more ease and clarity. Sam is also child-free by choice, so stay tuned for a bonus tease on that at the end. I am really curious about how understanding our human design can help us optimize the way we work, rest, and relate to others. Welcome, Sam.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here.
I am so happy to have you. We've been talking for almost 40 minutes before we even hit record, and we just met for the first time. So I feel like we are already close friends, and I'm excited to open this to everyone listening. Can we just start by you telling us, what is human design?
Yeah, absolutely. So human design is essentially, it's a synthesis of ancient wisdom and modern day science. It includes astrology, the I Ching, Kabbalistic tree of life, the Brahmin chakra system, quantum physics through neutrino theory, and genetics. It's a lot. It's a practical map for remembering who you are and not who you were told to be. So it's just a user manual for your energy.
Okay, you said so many different things that come together there, which I'm already surprised because I thought there was like astrology, then there was human design separately, then there was Enneagram as a separate thing. I feel like there's all these different modalities, but am I hearing that human design is an amalgamation of some of these pieces?
Absolutely. So astrology is pulled into human design. So just like you would in astrology, pull your natal chart, human design is the same base. You would pull the exact time you were born down to the minute and the location. So with your natal chart in astrology, this would give you your essentially natal chart in astrology. With human design, it gives you the same planetary placements of where you were born. And then also on the opposite side, it has the placements of 88 days prior when Ra believes that your soul was implanted into your body. So it takes both the planetary elements of when you were actually born and then 88 days prior. And then it combines those together to build a body graph that has definition or not definition based on those locations.
Okay, I've always wondered why you need to know. Where you were born is one thing, but down to the minute of the moment you were born, and it's because of planetary alignment.
Correct. Yeah. So it depends on the degrees at which the planets were actually at that time in the sky. And so the degrees matter. A lot of times you can get really close. A lot of people are very, very close. But if you change it, you can get changes in your design. Like the idea how between 11:25 and 11:26 might not be a big deal, but 11:59 at midnight definitely changes things, right? It changes it by a whole day. And so sometimes in human design, it won't be that exact cutoff, but there are different times where things will grandly shift. So that's why you want to know the exact time. I've had people look at their birth certificates. I've had people use plates that are on the wall at their grandma's house because for some reason she made these commemorative plates that had their exact time of birth on them.
That's so cute.
Random ways you can find it, but typically it's just on your birth certificate.
Okay, I've had this conversation with friends, and some people are like, I have no idea. My mom doesn't remember, or my mom's not here anymore, and I can't ask her. So I didn't even think to go to your birth certificate. But now I understand down to the minute, it really does matter when you're trying to, you said pull your chart.
Correct. So once you implant all the information, I call it pulling a chart. So it will build your body graph. Another way, if you do pull your birth certificate and for some reason the date is not on there, you can order what is called a long form birth certificate. And a lot of times then it will be included. And I've had even people look through archives of birth announcements in newspapers back when that was a thing to try to find their parents or their grandparents. So that's an option also.
Okay, so I was looking on your website to prepare for this conversation and learn more about you. And I read the line, you do not need to believe in human design. You need to experiment with being yourself, which I believe is a quote you have on there. And I really like that because this whole idea of believe, depending on who you are, who you talk to, some people are like, oh, I don't believe in an astrology. Oh, I don't believe in human design. Is it a belief system or is it just another way to analyze pieces of ourselves? Can you share more about all this?
Yeah, honestly, what's really funny about that is that it's not a belief system. I mean, some people treat it as if it's a church at this point, which cracks me up. But the story of human design is so there was this man named Ra Ura who he renamed himself that. His name was actually Robert Allen, I think Krakauer. Born in Montreal, he's Canadian in 87. He was off the coast of Ibiza and he heard what he deemed the voice, and it was a light being. And so for 8 days and 8 nights, he had this voice that spoke to him continuously, and it detailed this transmission of what could become the human design system. And so he says that he didn't actually make it up. He says that we're all using it, that he borrowed it, that he's just essentially the voice of the system. So he's bringing it to us, but it just pulls all these things in. And so when you kind of break it down, you're like, okay, there's a guy that happens to be off the coast in Ibiza in the 80s, awake for 8 days and 8 nights. Is he a crackpot? Was he on drugs? He renamed himself. What is happening here? He brings in all these things where the 64 hexagrams in the chart are based off the I Ching, and then there's 9 energy centers. And so those are supposed to correspond to the chakras, but there's only 7 chakras. He's saying we evolved into a 9-centered being. And so because we evolved, we needed more energy centers to define the things that we are going to do and changing how we're designed to operate, essentially. It depends who you speak with, but when Ra talks about it, it's not something that you have to believe in. And he flat out says, he does no longer because he's passed. But if it works for you and it resonates, take it. If it does not, let it go. It's not something that you cling to. It is not a hard, fast rule. It's the idea that this is not a system that you have to 100% believe in or jump into or tie yourself to every little thing. And I think a lot of people, if they're not getting where they want to go in life, they'll start to cling to a system exactly as it is, especially like human design. And they're like, well, I have to do it this way because this is what my design says. And sometimes it might not resonate with you, and it might not resonate with you because it's not for you right now, but it might be later, or it was for a past version of you. But it's not something you have to hold steadfast to and just pigeonhole yourself with, I guess. Ra didn't want us to put ourselves in a box. He wanted us to step out of said box.
Okay. I appreciate that permission right out the gate because sometimes I think these things, it's almost like the chicken and the egg. Is this a way to quantify your personality or are you making this thing your whole personality now because you have been assigned this label or this personality type? And then it's like, oh, well, of course I would. I'm a Sagittarius. That feels not relatable to me. And yeah, I don't know my human design. We're going to get into that because I'm curious to see if I feel like it aligns with how I think I see myself, which is going to be fun. But before that, I just want to help people visualize who have no idea what this is yet. You get a chart. Does it put you in categories like how an Enneagram does? Do you get a number? What do you get as an assignment?
So once you get your chart, on the right-hand side, it'll show a body graph. And basically, it's going to show the energy centers. It's almost like a diagram. And there will be different centers. So think of it as in there's 9 shapes. And in each of those shapes, they're either going to be white or they're going to be colored in. The color does not matter. People use different colors for different charts or branding. That's totally fine. But the color itself does not matter. It's either defined or it's not defined, right? And then that just tells you where you're consistent in certain areas. But on the left-hand side, and you're going down the foundation, you will have a type, which is there's 5 types. And so it does put you in that category. That is very important. And then it'll give you a profile, which is a number system. They're all important, so I don't want to say it's not as important, but your type is going to be the easiest thing for people to recognize and understand right away as how you're meant to operate, I guess. So there's 5 types. It's your energetic role. And so how you're designed to operate in the world and how your energy moves, attracts, or guides, depending on which grouping you fall into. The manifester, you are initiators. You're here to start things, not sustain them. So you spark movements and then you disappear before the crowd arrives. I think of somebody lighting a match and walking away is like the visual that I get in my head. You're really, really, really good at starting things. Generator, you're a pure generator. You are a builder. So you sustain life through work that feels good. Generators light up when they're doing something they love. You're pure magnetism in motion. I call you like a glitter parade. So when you're doing something that you love, it's almost as if you're spewing glitter because people are like, what is going on over here? I want to come. And so they get magnetized to you, right? You love doing the podcast, right? And so people are drawn to that because it's something that lights you up. So the more that you do things that light you up, the more that your generator runs in a positive way. And so you can run forever, which is a blessing and a curse because you're also still human. I think of it as your yes lights up a room and your meh, like your kills momentum. If you're like, oh, this doesn't really do it for me, or this isn't my favorite thing, people will know, you'll know, and then other people will know. And they're going to be like, oh, well, that's not as exciting. What happened to our glitter?
So far, this feels very resonant with the way I behave and how I don't know about light up a room, but I can definitely kill a room when I'm like, no, I don't think so.
Yeah, they know. And then manifesting generators. So this is a hybrid between manifestor and a generator. They're the multitasking hybrid. So they're fast, they're multi-passionate, non-linear. They will skip steps, break rules, still win. They're not the IKEA instruction people. They do not follow the proper road, except their furniture will still be put together in the end and be totally fine. So they're built for shortcuts and chaos, and somehow it works. And sometimes I think they don't even know how it works, but they're like, well, it just does. It just all comes together in the end. Projectors, that'd be me. I'm a guide. We see systems and direct energy. We're not meant to do it all. We see the game better than we can play it, honestly. And so we wait for the invitation and then we lead the way. I like to compare us to Wi-Fi to a degree because we're not a generator. Generators have this energy and this life force and this power, and you guys can go and go and go. And we do not. We're meant to connect, guide, disconnect, turn the Wi-Fi back off. We need our own space and we need to recoup because we just don't have that internal force of power to continuously run. And then you have the reflector, and reflectors are wildly rare. They have 0 defined energy centers. And so they're known as the mirror. They literally sample the world and reflect itself back. So they take in everything around them and then they amplify it going backwards. So they feel everything, sometimes stronger than the people themselves are feeling it. And they remind the world what it's like to really be human. And so they're a human moon because they work on a lunar cycle. And so they're constantly shifting and they're never fixed. Those are the 5 types. They're very, very different. And at the same time, there will seem to be certain things in between, especially the hybrid manifesting generator versus the manifestor or the generator. You're taking a little bit of each, but they're all a little bit nuanced.
You did a beautiful job of describing that and the benefits. I'm just thinking about my friend group or thinking about even a society and a city council or something and how things get accomplished, shared, built, created, how they move on to the next thing. It's like everybody plays their perfect role.
For sure. They definitely intertwine. And you'll notice that a lot of times when we overlap friend charts or partnership charts, you will fill in the gaps for the other people. It's like you're constantly looking for that little bit of a missing link. And another great thing that I want to throw in there is that as far as Raw was concerned, obviously you take it, you leave it, you don't like it, that's fine. But as far as a chart is concerned, you'll look at your chart and you'll see definition. As the planets continuously move, you will have pseudo definition in other areas of your chart. So throughout the entire year, everything is included in you. It is literally all there. It's just where you have definition, you have consistent energy too. So you're more consistent in your defined areas, but that doesn't mean that you don't have it. And so as far as a modality, it's really cool to look at it and say like, oh, okay, I am 100% whole on my own. But sometimes these people fill in these gaps, and sometimes these people fill in these gaps, and sometimes I fill in these gaps, right? And so it's like this wheel mechanism where we're all just constantly contributing to each other and the greater as a whole, which I think is really beautiful.
Okay, I think you said something really important there. This isn't about feeling like, oh, I'm not good at finishing things or I'm not good at coming up with ideas, right? I like what you said about energy. If I'm understanding this correctly, it's like your most natural flow of energy is related to how these designs work. It doesn't mean you can't do something else or do something else well. But if we want to be most in flow with the way we naturally are, maybe paying attention to these designs helps with that.
Definitely. And I will say we're all very, very quick to judge ourselves harder than we judge anybody else. And we're all very quick to minimize what we do really well, because if something comes easily to us, we assume it comes easily to everybody and we automatically discount it. So we'll look at something and we'll say, oh, well, I'm not good at A, when in reality, you're really good at C, D, E, F, but you've ignored those things because it seems so simple to you that you don't realize that they're gifts. For example, in my chart, I have a defined root. I thought for the longest time I was a procrastinator, and having a defined root means I'm really great with deadlines. And so anybody that has root definition, I will flat out tell you, if you say I'm going to get this done in 2 weeks and then you beat yourself up for procrastinating it for every day, but then you manage to get it done the night before you need to, down to crunch time, it's done on time and it's actually usually pretty well done. The idea is that you're not procrastinating. You just need to move up your deadline. Either you're really good at thinking in high pressure situations, or you're really good at, frankly, pulling it out of your ass. If you're really good at doing that last minute, you're not necessarily procrastinating. You're just putting a negative label on what you apparently do really well. Because if you're able to pull it out of your ass and make it seem like you've been working on it for 2 weeks, that's a gift. And instead you beat yourself up for taking too long. When in reality, you told yourself you had that long. You're just giving yourself these little micro kicks for no reason.
Do you feel like you get into this a lot in your coaching work that you do with people? Because noticing a theme a little bit in just a couple of the conversations we've had here on the show, Victoria Song, I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she's an advisor and she mentioned something like this. We spend so much time trying to fix our weaknesses instead of leaning into the strengths. What could we accomplish if we just recognize the gifts and try to take roles or start things, do things in alignment with our strengths and just not worry about the weaknesses? There's somebody else who's really good at that to come and support us, partner with us, work with us, whatever. Does this come up in your work with people?
Oh, 100%. I will talk to people and I will listen to them completely berate themselves, and we'll be chatting and then I'll start pointing out things. And a lot of times it takes them a minute to even notice that I'm talking about them, because they're like, those are really great qualities. Yeah, you're right. Those are really great qualities. I'm like, can we talk about the fact that you have all those qualities? And then it takes them a minute to register. I mean, we're constantly bombarded with what other people can do. And a lot of them are very, very specific niche things. And we're like, why am I not good at that? Right? Why am I not in the NBA? Well, I'm 5'6.5". It's not going to happen for me. You know what I mean? It's just, we put these ideas in our head on where we should be in all of these aspects, and nobody can do it all. Nobody can do everything. But even the people that are telling you, oh, I don't have any gifts, I'm not good at anything, there's no way it's true. It's just not. It's just you're completely overlooking them, or you don't see your gifts as something that have value. Because a lot of times we've been told that we have to work for things that are valuable, right? Money doesn't grow on trees, especially money. Money's a big one. We'll have these blocks, but if you're not working for it, or if it's not hard, then it's not something that's tangible. And that's not true. So just because it comes easy to you does not mean it's not valuable. And a lot of people just skip over that. It's really funny because if you look at certain professions that people have nowadays, I mean, through the roof, the sky is the limit on whatever you want to do. I swear the people that win at life are the ones with the best imaginations. But the original people that decided to arrange flowers for a living, right? It is a staple and it has gone nowhere. But the first person who was like, I'm really good at this, right? What did that person originally think? Their parents were probably like, oh, great.
That's not a job. You can't make money at that.
No, but flower arranging, it's stunning. It makes people happy on a daily basis. And there are some people that absolutely thrive at it. And it's amazing. And it comes simple to them. I'm sure at one point we're just like, well, I'm just putting flowers in a vase. It's not that big of a deal. But there's a flower shop in every town. There's a flower shop on every corner. It's a very sustainable business. But it's so funny because I think of how many people I go into their homes and they're really good at it. And they're like, oh, just that. Cooking or interior design, athlete, just because they're not in the Olympics, they don't think that there's anything behind what they do. But now, because of social media and things like that, you look at these people that are partnering with brands and they're like, why would a brand want to partner with me? because you're a human and you're good at what their brand supports, right? So there's all these ideas of all these avenues you can go down if you just really maybe give yourself a little bit of grace and say, okay, what comes easily to me? What do people typically compliment me on? If you walk in somewhere and somebody's like, oh, you're really good at XYZ, and it doesn't have to be something that you think would make money in order to give you value. But at the same time, there's a good chance if you're good at it, it can make you money.
It is such a shame that we do feel if it's not hard, we don't deserve it. And you're right. We have equated this with money for sure and our income, revenue, jobs. But I think even in other parts of our lives that have nothing to do with our work, it just gets so intertwined with our worth that we have to be working really hard. We have to be almost sacrificing for us to deserve whatever thing we're trying to get. And I think your work is genuinely so, so, so important. Whether people listening are fully bought into human design or not, anything that helps people even just witness their own gifts, their own strengths. You're sharing with us how hard it is for us to see that. I see that in my brand work all the time. It's like, no, no, no. The thing that's really special here in this business is you. And people are blind to that, the reality that they have this special sauce that they're adding, that people want to be around them, people want to buy from them. It's so hard for us to see that in ourselves. But imagine what could happen if we could just strip that veil away and just do stuff we enjoyed, how much happier we'd be and how much more money we would probably make.
Oh, 100%. I believe that energy is a current. And you look at money, and money is currency, right? So there's that idea that it all ties together. I think a lot of times when we're in flow, and it's not just money, but when we're in flow and we have a strong energetic current that's on a vibe that's great for us, and we're following in our own path, I guess you can call it easily enough, things that are meant for you will come to you. It doesn't work to sit on your couch and be like, okay, any day now that publisher clearing check, which I'm sure I just aged myself out of a lot of you, but that publisher's house is going to knock on my door.
That used to be the dream. Ed McMahon. I remember it well.
Here he comes. That's not necessarily going to happen for you. But at the same time, when you're out and about, like I said, you're magnetic, right? And so if you're cruising around and you're doing things that are lighting you up, you'll get people that are magnetized to you that want to talk to you about what you're doing, as long as you're not staring at your phone. It's a great way to build connection, is to talk to people about what their gifts are, because then they'll talk back to you about what your gifts are. I would say right now, I bet you would be mind blown if you told your best friend, like, hey, let's each write a list of 10 things that we love about each other. And I guarantee there's something in that list that you never would have thought would have come on that list. You know what I mean? Like, it would not have been in your radar at all. And yet you see this and you think, oh my God, they see me that way. Why don't I see me that way? And then you get to start to unravel that, which can cause some ugly cries, but it is good.
Part of the process.
Exactly. One of the biggest things in human design is called deconditioning. And so essentially, from the moment we become verbal, especially women, the moment we become verbal, your parents start telling you no. You're like, I have so much I want to express, and I'm going to start talking. And they're like, you need to be quiet. This is not the place. And then they constantly start telling you, no, no, you cannot do that. No, you cannot have that. No, that is not for you. This little energetic being that has all of this verbiage or noises in general that they want to throw out, but they just keep getting hit literally with resistance. Like, no, 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 no. So eventually we end up getting smaller and smaller, because our first relationship with our parents is the most unhealthy one, because in the beginning, we are molding ourselves not to who they want us to be, but who we perceive them to want us to be. So we're like, oh, if I do this, I'll make them upset. If I do this, I make them happy. So we start throwing away the parts of us that are actually us and trying to meld ourselves into a vision that we as children have perceived them to want us to be. Not even who they actually want us to be, but we're like, I think this is what they're thinking. And so we start hiding these parts of ourselves on purpose. And then you get into school and it's stop moving, don't fidget. Women are getting smaller and smaller. The little girls are getting tiny. We stop moving, we stop talking. Some of us don't. You can hear me. I just keep going. So it's that idea, though, that when you get to a point where eventually you're in social situations where maybe somebody doesn't like this part of you, or you perceive that they didn't like that part of you. So you're going to hide that for now and you're going to forget about it. And then we get to adulthood and we realize we've forgotten what we've tried to forget. We don't know anymore what was in there. We don't know where it was. And so we're all just this version of ourselves that we've built over the years from outside perceptions of who we think they want us to be. With human design and finding out exactly, once you start cultivating things and seeing like, wait, actually that is something that resonates with me, or hey, that is a spark right there. You get to pull back and start seeing the things that light you up and bring you joy, not like you have to find all the little sayings that go on a wall or something like that, but all the little things where they're nuanced and you might not have noticed them for a really long time. And then it starts to bring you back to who you were. It's pulling those threads, right? It just gets deeper and deeper. And it's just a really cool journey because it's one big freaking experiment. You can't make the wrong choice by trying to figure out who you are.
The community that has developed from this podcast is incredible, and I am so excited to meet in real life. We're hosting our first in-person event, an evening of curiosity and conversation focused on the power of self-expression. Picture a luxurious dinner party, luxurious drinks, mingling, mixing here in downtown Chicago on February 19th, 2026. And the event is also stacked with speakers from some of your favorite episodes. Trisha Brook is delivering a custom keynote on the power of using our authentic voice for positive influence. We have a self-expression panel featuring sustainability expert Ashley Piper, transformative wardrobe stylist Shelley Carlson, and nervous system expert Olivia Marie. The event is going to be kicked off with an intention-setting meditation hosted by Nadine Cherry. These are the voices we already love, and now we have the opportunity to meet face-to-face. Come to learn, ask questions, connect with cool child-free women, and embrace the kind of inspiration that lasts through the entire year. Seats are intentionally limited to keep this intimate, and tickets are first come, first serve. So if you've been listening to the podcast and thinking, I want to be part of a community of women like this is your invitation. Grab your ticket by visiting CuriousLifeOfAChildFreeWoman.com/2026 event. I cannot wait to see you there. I'm just thinking so many things right now about the way we all grow up, right? And it's nobody's fault. It's not intentional. It's not unintentional. This is just the way of learning your place in the world and society as we go through these different ages. I think a lot of people listening, or at least I'm hearing this more in social circles, I do think there's this feeling where people hit a certain point and they're like, do I definitely know who I am? Do I know how I want to represent myself? And we've talked on this show that we have some open space, and I don't want to put out the tone that we have nothing to do with our time and just endless free time and money, because that's a misconception about child-free people that you and I know is not true. But there is a space in our lives that's traditionally reserved for raising kids. And if we're not doing that, I feel like what a gift for us to get curious and ask these questions. But then it's scary. What if you do open something up where you're like, well, wait a minute. Did I choose this city? Did I choose this career? Am I acting the way that I think I really am when I meet new people or when I'm at a party? Am I just like putting up this front somewhere along the way? I thought that was the way I should be behaving. Then it's like, whoa, how do I get rid of those layers and get back down to how I want to be seen now that I'm fully in my power and I'm independent? Then it's overwhelming sometimes. So I feel like you're encouraging us that human design can maybe be a tool to start to recenter back to who we are when you strip all that away.
Oh, 100%. Part of it too is at some point we stopped playing and playing make believe and trying things on. You're playing dress up. You were saying like, oh, maybe I like this, maybe I don't. And now we stopped doing that. We're like, you know what? I like guac because 99% of the internet says they like guac. Try something new. It doesn't hurt. Oh, well, this is me, or this is how I am, or this is where I've gotten to. Great. The cool thing is that once you recognize it, you can change it. Right? So it doesn't have to be scary. It could be empowerment. Like, oh my God, I don't even know if I like this city. Do I even like cold brew? What am I drinking today? Just start taking little tiny steps. Do I like this toothpaste? If you don't, like your pillow, your sheets, the type of mascara you wear, if you wear it, there are just these little things that you can go through. Turn left instead of turning right when you go for a walk. Just start challenging yourself to get a little bit uncomfortable. Because the familiar zone and the comfy zone, it's familiar, but it's not actually comfy. Oh, this is just where I'm comfortable. No, you're not. You're highly uncomfortable. You're just familiar. If we're going to be uncomfortable either way, why not do the fun thing or try something that might be fun, possibly outside the comfort zone? But if we're obviously already uncomfortable here, what's the worst that can happen? You try a new vegetable, you decide you don't like smoothies, you don't want celery juice, you're not a yoga person, you decided that HIIT's better, or you hate HIIT. Now you decide you don't want to run anymore. Maybe you do like bar classes. Who knows? Just literally go out and sample it and try it. Because when we were kids, we had free will that got a little bit stuffed, right? And so now we have the free will, but we're all acting like we don't.
Whoa, that's a good line. It's true. I just saw some woman posting something on Instagram where she was relating her life to Groundhog's Day. And she wasn't saying it as a negative thing. She was like, have you seen the movie Groundhog's Day? That's my life. This is what I do every morning. I drive, blah, blah, blah. I stop and get gas. I go to this desk chair. And I'm watching like, oh my God, misery. That's so terrifying. But whatever our version of familiarity is, I like that word that you used. We just get up and we do it again. And we just maybe slip out of that imagination, which I feel very inspired to bring it back the way you're sharing this.
Yeah, color in a book, jump rope, skip around. I got a weighted hula hoop 2 weeks ago. It's in the garage. I haven't used it, but it's there. It's just
Fun.
when you say the idea that somebody's just sticking to their normal routine, there are routines that are healthy. And there are people that are like, oh, you know what? The gym is my therapy. And that is great. And I fully believe that. I believe we all need movement. We all need exercise. We all need some outlet that's good for our body because overall that's good for our brain, our mental health, all the healths, right? But it doesn't have to be the same every single day. What point do we say, okay, well, maybe this isn't for me? Or maybe, like I said, just take a left. Maybe you want to drive a different way. Maybe you want to walk to a different park. Maybe you want to try something new. Because the easiest way to age yourself is to consistently do the same thing every single day because you don't have any growth. There is no change. But in our minds, our body would love for us to do that because our body's like, no, 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 we're safe here. We are very safe here because we've survived it up until now. And that's where resistance comes in. A lot of people, especially looking at charts, there are some people who have consistent motivation and some people who do not. The people who have consistent motivation beat themselves up when they're not using it. Just because it's consistent doesn't mean it's permanent, right? And then the people that don't have consistent motivation beat themselves up when they don't have motivation, but they rarely have it consistently. And so the idea that our bodies will constantly keep us on whatever plane it keeps us to be alive doesn't mean that it wants us to be happy because it doesn't know the difference. So you can be doing something consistently, consistently, consistently. And then when you start to change it, you get that uneasy feeling. Or your body will literally try to thwart you, or your brain will try to talk you out of it because it's new and it's different. It doesn't mean it's unsafe. It's unsafe to your body because your body's saying, like, wait a minute, this isn't what kept us alive for 41 years. Where are we going here with this? Why do you want to do this to me? Quit trying to screw me up here because I'm really happy that I've been keeping track of you for so long. When in reality, these other things can light us up and they're not a negative, they're a positive. A lot of them can cause apprehension or anxiety. Lean into things that make you uncomfortable and then ask yourself why they're making you uncomfortable. There's obviously a difference between things that make you uncomfortable and things that make you unsafe. So I hate to throw that stipulation in there, but it is there. We're not jumping off a roof or out of a plane without a parachute. That's not the plan. But it's the idea that when you start to lean into the discomfort, right? What's there? And then the more that you do it, the less fearful you are to do it because you don't have that data that's telling you that you're going to be fucked, frankly. It's not going to hit you in the face every time. Sometimes it might a little bit, but at the same time, are you better off sitting on your couch and not trying anything and just living in that Groundhog Day?
No. Even getting slapped a little bit by something, if worst case, which is probably the minute percentage anyway, that builds resilience too. I love what you said about the fastest way to age. I've seen studies on that, and it makes sense. It's just this safe little cushy life. It's all expected. It's all routine, which is an illusion anyway. We can't really predict life or control it. But I love the reminder that just shaking it up, even if it feels anxiety inducing for a second, in the big picture, it is better for our brain. It's better for our health, physically and mentally. And speaking of discomfort, I am making my best friend do this list of 10 things with me. We're going to write each other letters about all the things we think are great. I think it's going to be really good for us. And I want to learn more about how we relate this to other people. You mentioned that maybe in a partner or a best friend, we fill the gaps with things that maybe they're naturally inclined energy wise and we're not. How does this help us, not just with ourselves, but in the way we relate to other people?
Oh, massively. So once we get through our type, which I could literally talk for hours on each individual type, it goes to your strategy, and your strategy is tied in with your type. It is your correct approach to life, right? So this is how you interact with opportunities, people, decisions, and the way that you lead to more flow versus backfire. So for you, basically, you're a generator, right? So your job is to wait to respond. The universe pitches, you swing only when it feels right for you. Life will keep presenting you things, and then you get to choose how to react. And so if you're forcing it, it's going to drain you. And you're not supposed to chase things. You're just only supposed to respond to what lights you up. And so it seems passive because you're waiting to respond, but it doesn't have to be passive, right? That's just specifically your type. So the idea is that you're going to be constantly bombarded with choices. You can walk into a grocery store and now all of a sudden you have 5 different beverages. Oh, that's my favorite one. And you can take it. Or you can say, oh, actually, none of these are for me. And I'm going to pass right now. So if you choose one and you love it, then great, you win. If you decide to pass, then you go into a different store and then you find something you actually enjoy. Great, you won again, right? So the idea is you're constantly responding. So you're waiting to respond to something and then you get to act. And so for you, that works in your relationships, right? You're not the one that's out there constantly propositioning everybody else, constantly trying to sell things, constantly trying to do things or instigate. That's not your job. Your job is to respond to things that light you up. Obviously, if you've been friends with your best friend for however long, you don't have to be like, I'm going to wait for her to invite me to lunch, because otherwise that's not how it works. Once you have an energetic relationship, you're fine. But in general, the universe, say, it has everything it wants to give you up above. It will start sending things down. And as you respond to things and say yes to the things that light you up, it will start sending you more of those. As you start saying yes to things that don't light you up, it'll keep sending you more of those. So which one do you really want? Because your job is essentially to respond. So you wait. But if you're responding to the things you don't like, then you're going to continue to get those things. So when people say like, oh, this is just my pattern, this is just what happens to me. No, this is what you're choosing. So the more that you stop responding to the things you don't want and the more you respond to the things you do, this is when it changes course. Get very clear on what you do like. Get very clear on what you don't like. It should be pretty obvious what you don't like. But sometimes you might be doing things that you don't actually enjoy just because they're routine. So then, okay, so how do we go about changing that? That's where you're going to look into exactly how that works with other people. Manifestors, you want to inform before you act. So one of my friends, multiple kids in a household, the other kids will just run out the door and the manifestor will say like, oh, I'm going to so-and-so's house. They'll say it out loud before they leave. Everybody comes back and everything's fine. They're the only ones that said it. If they were to leave the house with everybody else and not inform, when everybody comes back, the parent automatically says, where did you go? Specifically to that one. So it's just really interesting because with the least amount of resistance, they're informing people. They're not asking for permission. You're not saying like, hey, can I go to my friend's house? Which as a kid, you probably should. But it's not that. It's more like, hey, I'm just going to do this. Hey, I'm going to go in the other room. Hey, I'm going to go outside. It's not asking, like I said, you're not asking for permission, but you're just informing people. And that is the smoothest transition for a manifestor. So that's really, really an important thing for them to know in relationships with other people, especially spouses or friends. Because otherwise it's like, where did you go? I went to the bathroom. It's not that big of a deal. But for some reason, people relax when they know your next move. That's just for a manifestor. Manifesting generators, they are going to wait to respond, then inform. So they're the double down of the generator and the manifestor. So they're moving fast, but then they're going to let other people know what exactly that blur was. They're the same as generators. So they're faster and messier, but they're supposed to wait to respond. And then they can explain later. So then they get to inform. So that's around the end. Projectors, me, I'm a wait for the invitation person. So recognition is essentially currency to me, and I'm not supposed to spend it where it's not valued. So if you're a projector and you're listening to this, a lot of times if you offer information and somebody does not have space to hear it, it will hit you back in the face so hard. It's unfortunate, especially as a kid, because you want to share everything with everybody because everybody else is doing it. And it's not so much a do not speak unless you're spoken to. You're allowed to speak at any time, but offering advice to people, which you're really good at, or offering to fix things for people, which you're also really good at, if it's not requested, it's not going to land. And then as far as a reflector, you guys are waiting a lunar cycle. Yours is a bit more passive. So the moon is your project manager. It is really intense. The moon, she's your boss, and you need to trust her timing, and it gives you the time to feel all the angles. And so I say decisions by moon, not by deadline, because other people will put deadlines on you. But as far as a reflector is concerned, you need to take in the information and then sit with it and ponder it and figure out how you feel in the different parts of your being. Because like I was saying with astrology being in the chart and how the planetary alignments constantly move on where you have definition, for those of us that have definition in centers already, it still changes things. But for people that have zero definition in any centers, it is so much of a bigger pull for you because now you're going to have definition or you're going to have insight or clarity that you didn't have the day before or the day after. A lot of people that are reflectors will constantly have either inner or outer, have other people telling them, you seem like you're a different person today, or last week you were a different person, or you seem to have these extreme mood swings, or You're very inconsistent. It's not that. You're just being governed by something that's so much bigger. And because you have less consistency, when the changes happen, they're much more obvious. And so for lunar cycle, you want to wait to make decisions. And then when you go below, one step below the strategy, you have your authority, which is your internal compass. And that's another one that tells you what's true for you and what's not. So depending where you have definition in your chart, it's going to tell you how you're best meant to respond. For you, you've got a sacral authority. And so in order to be a generator or a manifesting generator, you have a defined sacral. And having your sacral is your gut says yes or no. And your brain is not in control. Your body is telling you. Your body knows well before your brain does. And so if you feel it and it's a yes, or you feel it and it's a no, you can trust that. You don't need to justify or try to talk yourself in one way or the other. You already know. And so your body speaks faster than your brain does. And your job is to listen before logic talks you out of it. Since you've got a sacral authority, your gut is the truth teller. And it's not in your head. It's not in your heart. It's literally your instinctive, ooh, I know that's for me, or I know that's not for me, because that's your first definition, which is your authority. So you're a sacral authority. Do you ever feel like you know when you're in your gut well before your head does?
Yes, 100%. Everything you've said about me so far feels so spot on. And yeah, I feel that. And then sometimes my brain will talk me out of it, right? Or my brain will justify it the other way. And I could lay awake at night and like know for sure. I would be like, it's this, right? It's obviously this. And then in the morning, my brain will be like, I don't know, should we wait? Eventually, I always come back to the thing that I knew instinctually. Sometimes I just waste time in taking action.
It's hard because a lot of times you'll go, oh, I knew it. And then it comes to gaslighting ourselves. Why didn't I trust myself? And it's because your brain is smart and your brain is talking, and it'll probably tell you your gut doesn't know what it's talking about. Obviously, it's way down there. I run the show. That's another really cool part about human design, is that your mind isn't the winner. Depending where your authority is, where you're meant to make decisions from, it's not necessarily your brain. And then there's people in human design where you look at their chart and you know for a fact that they are constantly trying to have the right answer, when in reality, their design is flat out telling them, you're not meant to choose a side. You're meant to take in literally so much information and not necessarily form an opinion on your own, but understand why each side could do what each side's going to do. And then they get forced into making a choice, or they force themselves into making a choice. And it's not necessary. It's just there's so many nuances to charts where it gives us permission to be us, but also to help other people understand us better. When you start following, I call them the big three, just like you would in astrology. But if you have your strategy and your authority and your tithe, you have those three. Those three are heavy hitters when it comes to how you're best meant to converse with other people, energetically exchange with anyone, and just move about the world, I guess. I was going to say move about the country. I don't know if that was a tagline from some airline, but it sounds like
It's somewhere in there. It's so cool. I feel empowered. Thank you for looking into my chart before this conversation, because it's interesting. I do feel connected to what you're saying. And it's almost like knowing this information the next time I do have one of those gut feelings, why waste time? Just trust that, okay, my body is telling me this. I believe this for sure in this moment. Just go with it. Just do that thing. And I try to do that 1% of the time, but sometimes my brain really gets in the way.
yeah, well, you've been training it and it's been training you back. And that's the thing, is we all just have this internal AI that's in our heads that are telling us what we should and shouldn't do. But it's all conditioning. And we touched on it a little bit before, but the deconditioning factor. So human design is essentially you spend your entire life becoming this person that you think everybody else wants you to be. And so when you look into your design, you get to actually start removing the things that were never yours in the first place. Was this mine? No, it wasn't. It can go. Was this mine? No, it wasn't. It can go. And so it's not so much a modality where a lot of times we're like, okay, well, I have to do this. I have to do my gratitude journal, and then I have to do my 15 minutes of this and my 20 minutes of this. And you're constantly adding these extra things to your to-do list to try to become yourself or a better version of you, when in reality, a lot of the times we just have to remove things. It's doing less. I don't know if you ever saw Forgetting Sarah Marshall, where he goes to get a surfing lesson and they're just telling him, like, do less, do less. And eventually he's just laying on a surfboard. And I'm like, oh, I can relate to that. It's just you get lower and lower. You just need to do less. And I think we forget. We definitely forget, for me, because you can ask any of my friends, I'm just constantly jamming things into my calendar and stacking things on top of modalities. And then I'm like, Is this really me? And then I cut out everything that is not necessary. And I'm like, okay, that tracks. That feels good and doable. And I don't have to have all the answers because none of us do. And it just lowers expectations of self in a healthy way. Not like, oh, I don't expect that I can do these things, but as in like, I don't have to do everything and I don't have to do the things that are not for me.
The idea of doing less sounds like a dream, but doesn't sound like giving up to me, which I don't know if this has to do with my design or my personality or what, but that sounds like a nightmare, right? To think like, oh, I'm just going to take these things out because I couldn't do it or it was too much. That feels like a bad attitude. But to think I'm just stripping away distractions essentially and noise that's getting in the way of me accomplishing the stuff I'm really meant to bring to life in the world, that feels so positive and so unlike the typical direction we get, as you said, to, okay, now I need to start journaling. Now I need to start adding this type of walk to my routine. Now I need to go stand in the dirt in the morning so that I'm really grounded. Everybody has some tip on how to, as you said, be more of yourself. And it's really refreshing to think that maybe it's taking some things off of our plate to get back to the core.
So we've barely tapped on anything in your chart, and we will go over that later. But it's the idea that you have a defined sacral. And so for you, you have the motor that can keep you going. And so when you're saying doing less of things I don't want to do, that means you actually get to rest because people that have a defined sacral will keep running and keep running and keep running, whether it's something that lights them up or not. You have the ability to do it. If you keep running on something that lights you up, everybody is drawn to you and you still need to detach because, like I said, you're human and you'll burn out, but it's doing something that you love. You are also able to be that person where everybody's like, oh my God, I can't believe you're still doing this. Wow. And then they want to give you accolades for basically turning yourself inside out because you have this motor that keeps going when in reality, it's not giving you life, it's taking away from yours. And so when you say, oh, doing less, it's yes, do less of the things that are not for you, because then you have so much time and energy to do the things, A, that are for you, and B, the things that bring you joy. And that's the entire point of us being here. We all started earning these badges and awards for running ourselves into the ground like, oh, well, I only got 5 hours of sleep. Well, I did this. Well, I did this. And it's all just, when did this turn into a competition? And why is anybody winning? These are things that we should be questioning each other and saying, like, when was the last time you rested? Can we talk about having a competition for who gets the most sleep? Let's try that. Let's talk about somebody that actually has a space that's not cluttered with random things that they've been targeted for on Instagram. It's just, at what point do we all start applauding each other for self-care versus how many things you can accomplish while literally running yourself into the ground?
Can you imagine going into a business meeting and having somebody say, this week is insane. Business is over the top. I went to bed at 2 in the morning last night. And you say, I went to bed at 8. I slept for 10 hours. That should be the most praised behavior in the room. But it's exactly as you said, like martyrdom. Everyone's like, well, me too. I've been working really hard also. And it's been killing me too. And then we feel better. Oh, we proved ourselves. We're part of this. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing where it's becoming common and community to bond over hardship. And it's almost like we're celebrating it. Whereas we're undercutting each other's happiness every time that we agree to play this game that keeps us unhealthy as a competition for pride, or I'm not exactly sure what we're winning.
Nothing. We're losing individually. But I still think it's not the norm, right? To be praised for doing something with ease and flow and resting. What would happen if I accomplish everything I want to with this podcast and then people ask me how I did it and I was like, it was really easy. I feel like that would strip out the respect of the accomplishment.
Right. Which is so backwards.
It's so backwards, but that would break my heart, right? And then I'd be like, well, wait, not that easy. I did do stuff. It's like we just immediately want to prove our worth through the work.
Yeah. It's like when somebody compliments your outfit and you're like, I got it on sale.
I'm so bad about that. It was $7.
What man ever was like, that's a nice watch? He's like, clipped coupons for it. That doesn't happen. You know what I mean? The things they also expect us to be frugal on in life are completely different from the opposite side, right? But we're all just trying to play this game where like, oh, well, I'm struggling too. Haha, everybody's happy struggling. Let me prove to you how much I'm struggling to align with your struggling. When in reality, we're all aligning with the versions of ourselves we don't want. And then we're wondering why we're not happy. You're not changing, you're choosing, right? We're not even praising each other for self-sacrifice. We're just expecting each other to self-sacrifice. Otherwise, you get berated for not being the one that's doing it with the group.
You're right.
Nobody's winning. There is no prize for self-sacrifice. We all just get to commiserate together. And like you had said when we first started talking about is this a belief system or what is it? I think a lot of times when you were talking about assigning yourself, this is something that I'm going to assign myself. I am a human design XYZ, or I am this religion, or I am a mom, or I am not a mom. We pigeonhole ourselves into all these categories. And at what point do we stop identifying with the things we do and just start identifying with who we are?
There is such a need for that. Maybe we can be on the forefront of this. And by we, I mean me and you and everybody listening right now. It's going to feel like a risk. It's probably going to feel like crap when we're the first ones to be like, oh, it was easy, or I'm in flow, or I'm happy with these things, to just, first of all, get ourselves to a place where we mean it and we're actually existing that way, and then share it over time. I don't know. I think it could be a really positive ripple effect. Maybe at first people lash out at us or they're jealous of us or whatever, but it's what you've been saying. What are we actually accomplishing? Who's winning? Nobody. I'm saying this very sincerely and seriously. Maybe we can be a place where we genuinely try to publicize doing it differently.
I think that'd be killer. Give it a platform. Everybody mark down what was easy for you today. This was easy for me. What did I enjoy today? It's a gratitude, but on a different level. It's like, what did I enjoy? What was easy? What was simple? What worked for me? Just throw those out there. It doesn't have to be like, I'm grateful for XYZ. It's no, like, I got 7.5 hours sleep and my Aura ring said it was great. It's not even something you have to try to do. Or saying that something happened for you that was easy without having to justify why you earned it.
Let's try it. I'm going to write something down after this conversation.
This was easy.
This was easy. Yes. This is my dream. I could do this for 3 more hours and probably be more energized than when we started. So, okay, on that note, I could talk to you forever, and I'll give a sneak peek. We're going to record something special just for Substack. If anybody's not in the Curious Life Club yet, join on Substack. It's totally free. It's just a space where we can have more of a two-way conversation, which I have been craving with all of you who tune into this. And we're going to talk more about Sam's experience with being child-free. So join that. But before we close this, for people listening who are excited, yes, let's all do the thing where we write down something that was easy. Beyond that, where is the best place for people to start on this journey or continue their journey to reconnect with themselves?
So with human design, honestly, there are a lot of great resources. Like Jovian Archive is really great. You can find your chart for free through my Instagram or my website, which is www.humanaligned.com. We barely brushed on human design, and there are so many nuances and intricacies and massive ways you can shift really, really easily once you know what your chart looks like. I just can't say enough good things about it, honestly, especially when it has looked so promising for so many people. And I've literally never had anybody that was disappointed in knowing more about themselves. It's just such a permission-based tool. It gives you permission to come back to home, and it gives you permission to release so much that you feel like you should be accountable for when it's all self-imposed.
Beautiful. We will make sure all of your assets, everything you just said, is linked in the show notes. Thank you so much. I can't imagine how much more there is to human design. If you're saying we just scratched the surface here.
Didn't even touch it.
Okay, I got a lot to learn. But thank you for this introduction. I'm so grateful to have you on the show. You're a wealth of knowledge on so many topics. And as you said, this has been easy. It's been a joy.
I've loved being here. This is so much fun.
If this episode sparked something in you, come and join the conversation on Instagram at Curious Life of a Child-Free Woman. You can find more stories, guest insights, and moments that remind us why curiosity is so important. Speaking of curiosity, we're hosting our first in-person event, an evening of curiosity and conversation, February 19th here in downtown Chicago. Seats are intentionally limited and tickets are going fast. So get yours by visiting CuriousLifeOfAChild-Free-Woman.com/2026 event. And serious bonus, our keynote speaker, Trisha Brooke, has generously offered our listeners access to her free monthly workshop series. To learn more and sign up for the workshop, visit the link in the show notes. Until next time, let's stay curious together.